AD support and jungle early and trying to get as many solo lane counter picks as possible. And that's basically been the only strategy that we've seen in draft, which is weird because usually you see a little bit more diversity. And I don't know if teams are playing super conservatively right now, but it has been really, really high priority on like an engaged support, MF or Lucian, Nami, and then priority junglers like Lee or Jin Zhao, basically.
So like MF or picking 80 early has actually been pretty standard draft structure for like a year or two. I think it breaks sometimes because like you said, exactly like you said, it allows you to counter pick solo lanes, which I think is very important. I'm personally not on the MF hype train as much as everyone else is. Like it's powerful because it's a strong blind pick. So maybe if I was sitting there preparing for a match, I would also be picking it because it's different, like judging a pick and actually preparing. But I feel like with so many assassin junglers that are really strong, and the fact that like you can just pick Ezreal into it and build tank, I'm just not sure this champ actually is the most useful in like a stage scenario where games are not like snowbally. And I assume these MFs and scrims are just going absolutely wild, right? Because like you build lethality and you just start one-shotting everybody, and it must be very oppressive, especially considering you win like almost every lane. So yeah, I'll be interested to see like the MF thing and the Amumu thing, which kind of matches with it, is something that I'll be interested to track throughout the tournament. I kind of feel the MF prio will drop a little bit throughout the tournament, but still be played. That's my prediction because I feel like it's kind of like a noob champ as well, right? MF, Amumu, they're kind of noob champs. Like they're very easy. So for playing teams, it's a lot. Sure. It's true, right? Like,
it does feel very safe, and like I totally agree with your points about picking AD early. Obviously, that's been the case for a long time. It's just unusual to see one champ picked in virtually every game, first or second rotation by every single team. Like the priority is just crazy across the board for this champion, and I do think it's because teams are playing conservatively, but there hasn't been a lot of variation in draft strategy that we saw, at least in the play-in group stages.
But I've been there, right, preparing at World Championships, and when you see every team is picking this champion early, it feels it's very hard to really go in when there's like 1 million viewers and to just like do something completely different that nobody's gonna expect, right? It takes some balls, and I just hope that like I'm pretty sure they will, because that's I think one of the strengths of European teams is they're willing to actually try and figure out, okay, if everyone's just picking MF first pick on blue side, this must be exploitable. Like, can't we just lock in Zed jungle and Ezreal and a tank top or something? I guess tank tops are kind of bad, but you know what I mean? Like, this is the way I think you should think about it. Instead of just going in and being like, okay, well, just early pick what everyone else is early picking, and then they will do the set counter, and you kind of trade.
Well, the team I want to ask about now, actually, because we haven't mentioned them much, that I feel like must be in the wheelhouse you're talking about, it's got to be Fnatic. Like, look at the players they have in their team. They even have people who are specialists on off-meta picks, potentially. Even Hillisang will just go for certain picks, whether they're in the meta or not, he just likes. Like, I feel like this is a team where people already think they have good chances in this group, but they could potentially walk into a good meta, right?
Yeah, I think so. I especially think, like, they're, again, going into playoffs, in EU, I said like they're a team that could 3-0 or 0-3 any set, and I feel like they're a team that could actually win. They could go first.
They did both at the same time, right?
I guess I feel like they could plays like anywhere in their group as well. I see them as a big wild card. I like the fact that they're willing to play the game very active, which I think against, for example, a Korean team is going to be very, very strong, because Upset and Hilly are going to try win bot. They're going to make active plays, and Niski's going to lock in. He's basically, I would imagine, he's just only going to play roaming champs, which also is like very akin to the Chinese meta. So I think kind of in the same way where I'm liking Chinese matching into Korean teams at this World Championships from what I've seen from the regions, I like Fnatic's chances against like Korean teams as well.
Yes, I like to say that, to me, I think of all the Western teams, they have the best go button. Once they go, everyone just goes, which is obviously can be quite different to some of the past Fnatic teams, you know, where it was a bit more like there was a bit of a divide in the teams.
I'm just only a bit concerned for them in their group is if their solo lanes just get like kind of a bit stomped.
Yes.
Like I think they're good players. I think they can perform for sure, but they just have really, really insane solo laners they have to play against in their group.
Yes.
And that often in Europe was like something that they kind of faltered at. That was kind of their weakness, is if their solo lanes just like they want to play this active roaming style, and Adam wants to play his like very particular champion pool. And if these two things don't work out and your solo lanes are just losing, then the game gets really hard really fast. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think, especially when we're talking about the performances in the bot lane on Fnatic, it was extremely good towards the end of the season through the playoffs. Like Hylissang is just on a tear recently, so I'm very excited to see how that plays out in this group, because I feel like they can really take advantage of that and the pressure and the synergy that Hylissang has with Bwipo.
I just hope Upset gets Lucian for at least 1 or 2 games in the tournament, because I remember last time when I was coaching Upset, it was Lucian Draven meta, which I guess it is again. And the reason I call it Lucian Draven meta is because Draven counters Lucian, right? So Draven can't be picked in every game because sometimes the pick is really high risk and it can be really bad against a bunch of stuff. But like the picks usually come back kind of together. And I remember in this meta, I saw more 20 kill Lucian games in scrims than like I've ever seen in my life. Like it was just unbelievable. And unfortunately in Europe, because there were so many 20 kill Lucian games, I think it was banned against us for an entire split. But maybe like some of the teams don't know that, so
they don't know that exactly.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Classic. I've got a question. Obviously, we've been mainly doing European and Western teams here, but bear in mind, I don't know how much more time we've got. I want to just ask outright, since when you related Damwon winning last year, you related it to what the meta was. Who is your actual pick for the overall winner of Worlds, and how does that relate to maybe how the meta will be?
I've said last time I was on here, I said Rogue would win LEC, so my prediction.
You can get contract though. You can get a contract.
Dylan, the way you do predictions is it's about the reasoning you give,
exactly,
not being right.
Sure.
Of course. I was just joking. I think EDG will win Worlds if I had to predict the team. Probably not what a lot of people would predict.
Really? They're the reigning LPL champions, it seems
no,
like.
But I watch a lot of the other shows, Monty. Everyone's angle is like FPX is supposed to be the real best team in the world, and even then some people have RNG because of like how they were early in the year. So I actually think it's not. I haven't seen as many people say EDG outright, actually. I feel like they sometimes forget those teams. It's either Damwon or FPX for most people.
I think EDG's jungler is like the best jungler maybe at the tournament. As far as playing active and making stuff happen when I watch, at least in the finals. I'm not as like researched in LPL as I have sometimes, but like at least from like watching the finals and some of their games, I really like how their mid jungle plays. Like I'm very much a fan of a very active play style where you're really like forcing plays on sides with like a lot of like really strong mid jungle combos. And I feel like not only were they playing that very well, but they also drafted very well, which I think was good. I think FPX, it really seemed like Tien was really hit and miss in the finals and in a lot of the playoffs. Like he has a lot of like random bad games, whereas like EDG, like I picture the team winning this World Championships as a team that can play very fast, that can play very active through mid jungle, that can play a lot of the assassin jungles very well. That can
Isn't
play
that
Tien
though, who was like popping off on Kiana and when they won Worlds a couple years ago?
It was, but like he was really just playing Lee Sin, no. I feel like at the time. And yeah, I guess he was playing some Kiana and doing very good on it. But I think EDG is more suited to that, at least from what I've seen of both them recently. So yeah, if it's not EDG, I would say maybe FPX would win Worlds. But I think EDG is the best suited to kind of play what I envision as the best way to play the game right now. So that's why I'd give it to them.
I think that's fair. Do we get your predictions for the rest of the groups as well? Because we went through Group D, but it seems like you're pretty bullish on Fnatic. So Group C, you're taking Fnatic, I assume, to make it out.
Yeah, we'll go RNG and then Fnatic in that group. We'll go Mad Lions and LNG in that group, although that one I'm not quite sure on. We'll just go. Wait, it's T1 and EDG. That's the other group, right? I'll go EDG first. Obviously, I think they're going to win the tournament, so I'll put them first. And then I'll go FPX over Damwon in the first group for my full prediction.
Do you actually think, in line with all the things you've said, do you actually think Damwon themselves overrated in that sense? Because I mean, you actually had EDG and FPX as your two teams to win. Is that like Damwon's obviously just like last year, the hope of the LCK, and people have got to kind of believe they can be the best to still have any sort of like reason to believe Korea is the best. Do you see some flaws in them?
I think they can still. like if they were to win Worlds, I would not be like super shocked or anything.
Okay.
Right? They won last year. But like they had some struggles this year, no? Like their whole roster changes stuff. Like it wasn't as clean of a year, I think, for them. And I feel like the LPL teams are coming in a bit stronger. I feel like the meta suits them a bit better. I'd probably put them as my third best team at the tournament, I would say. So like I definitely still think I still think they have a shot at it, but I would just put them at tier 4.
By the way, I'll just say one factor no one considers here is that because it's in Europe, it's like when you have anytime you have Worlds in NA or Europe, the chance for upset should be way higher. Because I've already seen some like logs of where like Showmaker and stuff are just milded out of control.
Oh my god, I love those logs.
Yeah, so like listen, people don't get that. If they're playing on the like Chinese super server or the LCK or the Korean one, they're just getting normal practice. What you need is for them to be locked in a fucking steel cage deathmatch for 1 month before they play. Like, what the fuck are these guys? Like, that's brilliant. That's perfect. Exactly. Welcome to US, motherfucker.
Here's the other thing is that we talked about this on the jungle a little bit, but the thing about Korean players is that they are powered by Korean food, and there is no Korean food in the 300,000 population country of Iceland.
Yes.
I was told by a fan, like, was tweeting at Dgon and said, oh yeah, like there is like a small sort of Korean restaurant that opened recently, but it's still not great. And, you know, it really, like, as stupid as it sounds, it really does throw Korean players off to, like, not have their cuisine, especially for a tournament as long as Worlds. Like, MSI is one thing because it's just a couple weeks, but this is a long time, especially if you're making a deeper run. And I'm sure, as usual, the Korean teams brought tons of Korean food with them, but, you know, getting fresh food might be a little bit challenging for them. I'd love to know how they are dealing with that, and the Chinese teams as well. Kind of difficult to be in a place like Iceland that I think is limited in terms of its food options for such a long period of time. Because that's
the other joke as well, Monty, is they'll obviously have Chinese takeaways, but like when the food comes, they won't recognize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what did I order? Like, this isn't what I ordered. It's like, yeah, welcome to the West, mate. It's just grease everywhere. And sweet sauce on everything. Yeah, exactly. That isn't what you were eating home, I know. I feel bad.
So when we were in China, actually, sorry, this is going back to what you're saying about I find this stuff so hilarious. When we were in China playing RNG in the quarterfinals at Worlds a few years ago, we're gonna play against RNG, and Reckless queues up all day in solo queue to warm up, and every single game, everyone just started spamming on his team in chat, RNG win, and just started suiciding into turrets. They just suicided into turrets and Chinese solo queue for the entire day. Like, he was not allowed to warm up for a single game. Incredible. So, like, when I see Showmaker,
God bless you, Chinese people.
in all caps, just typing EUS server, in all caps, just flooding the screen. It's just,
there you go.
I don't think the EU players are doing exactly like that. But
no. Dude, that's why people don't know. That's the extra layer people always forget about that legendary Doper story. You know, the one where he went over to China and it was whoever got to like #1 on the server was at the point was going to win like 100k. People don't know this detail. On the last week or so, when he was like heading like a missile up there, everyone was just inting all the games. That's like he was Neo in the Matrix, and everyone was just turning into agents around him, and he still won't be that in all the games. Like, that guy's an actual god. Like, that's unbelievable. He could still do that, mate. That's crazy. If people don't know, it's not a meme. They do think China #1. Just understand what that means, guys. Is there a final topic, Monty?
Yeah, I've got one last prediction for you to make. Where is Dylan Falco coaching next year, if you had to predict?
We'll have to see. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
I have to see how those hot tub negotiations go.
I hear the greatest hot tub is the Blue Lagoon in Iceland, which, by the way, the fact that
sick, doesn't it?
The fact that Riot isn't doing hot tub streams in the Blue Lagoon is a damn shame. You could have set that up, Riot. You could have done it before Worlds.
Also, think of this,
have the greatest like pro player hot tub stream of all time.
Also, you just get all the star players, you have them in the hot tub, you do a feature, and then whoever the like MVP is, it's like the fucking beast from the Blue Lagoon, isn't it? It's like that's the that's the angle you go with, like Chovy or fucking. Well, I mean, let's be real, Chovy's not with the tournament, is he? But you know what I mean? Like, in theory, the best players.
I think the hype around the Faker Blue Lagoon hot tub stream would be off the charts. So
Sure.
I'm sad they didn't actually exercise that option. Well, maybe they will. Who knows? Who knows what Riot's plans are for content for Worlds? All right. Well, thanks, Dylan. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're going to chat, I guess, next with a triumphant Nymera who will be waxing poetic about Detonation Focus me getting into groups. We'll be back in a couple.
Right, we're back. We've got Nymera here, who technically, if you remember, we are men of our word. Monty did actually say some mad shit at the end of the last episode, where when Nymera said there was actually a world in which, they top the group and win the group, which at the time sounded like homerism, obviously. Monty did say something like, and if they do get through the groups, then we'll have you back on the show. So we're actually mandated to. We don't have any choice. He has to be here. Like
legally obligated.
Yeah, exactly, But
look, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy that the Dark Prince of Weebs is rejoining us. May his reign last for 1,000 years. Congratulations on being right about Detonation Focus Me. NA manages to fall on their face at the finish line, as is proud American tradition in esports, in every esport ever. And so they automatically qualify. They force C9 into...
It's a big deal, though, dude. Like he said, no Japanese team had ever qualified to the groups. They won their fucking group, dude. And remember, listen, yes, they're beyond things, obviously, like something of the fucking spectre over the group. Like, we can't really know what the fuck was going on with them. But, like, the idea you've placed ahead of what you were essentially two of the major regions a few years ago was ridiculous. Yeah, that's a massive accomplishment.
Yeah, I think I can get away with just being smug for half an hour. I think I could probably sit here and just have a shit ring. But yeah, I mean,
three of us, to be fair, but yeah, give it a go.
Yeah, it's very much in keeping with triumphant people. But I mean, I'll put my hand up and say I didn't necessarily think DFM would succeed in exactly the way that they did. Part of it kind of played into it because one of their biggest strengths is just being very versatile. And I think that we saw the difference between day 1 and days 2 and 3 in the plans of DFM was very different for the team. Day 1, they showed a tendency they sometimes did regionally where they'd play through top side and they'd stall out a bit. Even UOL actually kind of pinned them to that on their weaker showing in day 1. But then coming into day 2 and 3, it turns out they had prepped a lot more bot-centric drafts, and of course their solo lanes definitely helped towards that too. But this is a huge result for the region. We were setting this up for so long, but it's so huge.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I was surprised by that first game that they played against Cloud9 because to me it felt like they were playing scared a lot of the time. That they were playing super passively, and that they were in their own heads more than anything. And then also that draft was a little bizarre.
Yeah,
I
had some words to say to Kazu because occasionally I chat with him on Twitter, and he's saying, "Yeah, okay, my bad. Draft was not great." I think in my eyes it was. The first day, maybe 2 days for most of the teams in plans was figuring out what the hell do you first pick. Obviously, DFM were very emboldened by the first LeBlanc game where Ari just pops off. Everyone's quoting the stat that he's unkilled, undefeated on LeBlanc this year. He only had like 1 career loss on it. And they first picked it versus C9 when, honestly, MF was probably the best first pick to have right then. And then there's the problem of, well, DFM really can't play against Aurelia because they love to blind pick the Gnar. Actually, it's quite similar to, because obviously they've gone into Group B now. T1 have had a lot of over-priority on Kennen and stuff, and just saying, well, we'll take any bad matchups, come at me. DFM do that with Gnar instead, and Aurelia's like the one thing you just can't play the game into. That was kind of rough. But then, credit to them, in the tiebreaker match, they kind of found their way around the first big problem by picking up the Leona, which then forces MF into a bit of a weird state. And they had a much better idea of how they wanted to control the draft. So, I mean, in terms of the adaptation factor, they really came out ahead, and I was very proud of them for that.
Yeah, it's also worth...
go on. Yeah, keep going.
It's also worth noting that there was a lot made of Arya, dying for the first time right on the LeBlanc. But what kind of flew under the radar as the games progressed was that Arya only actually died 4 times in the entire play-in stage, and 2 of those were in that one game. Udapon also only died 4 times. So the level of kind of consistency from these star carries was really quite good over the, especially considering how badly they lost that first game, which definitely swung the stats.
I think the only game I can ever remember him getting a bit gapped, actually, was in one game where he was left to last pick with 5 bans and a counter pick against him. He had to pick like a 0 into a heavy dive comp in regional. Ari's has never been a player to like collapse. He's very, very consistent. I mean, way back in like MSI when we were leading up to that event, I think one of the big things I was saying about Ari is that he was just very efficient on everything, right? Like he was doing as much damage on, I don't know, like a Seraphine that other people were doing on a Lucian and all this other stuff. He's just very good at eking out the extra part of a matchup, the part of the champion. I think he did that really well, particularly in the Orianna matchup, actually, in that tiebreaker. Obviously, Perkz had a bit of an awkward Zoe game, and C9 didn't really play to their poke comp very well. I think their decision-making was not superb.
Look,
but Aria made the most of it, you know?
Let's be honest. Detonation Focus Me, given how that game was going, probably, if you had to say it, shouldn't have won that game. They did. It does take a catch to win from a throw, though, and they did. It was a beautiful catch by them. But some of that decision making around the first attempt at Soul from C9 was simply atrocious. Should Evie have been able to nail some of these flanks on set? You could make an argument that he shouldn't have been in those positions, but he executed on those positions. So, there was I think a very good attempt at a comeback that was successful from DFM, but you do have to pin a large amount of the blame on Cloud9 not understanding how to operate their composition.
So I'm not like into like ice skating or gymnastics and stuff. You know how like judges judge on different criteria? You've got like the difficulty and execution, all this other stuff. Like, well, all right, okay, maybe on like the early game decision making, particularly around that Herald around top side where they just kind of got a bit outplayed by Fudge taking the tower and running off into their own side of the map. Maybe you dock him a couple of points for that, but their team fighting was superb. I don't think you could take that away from them. I think that the one player who maybe people have put a magnifying glass over and said maybe they're getting a bit carried is Steel. I've been quite happy with how Steel's been performing, particularly in those team fights, particularly at that last Elder Dragon fight where, the Dragon last auto ends up killing Sven. Like, Steel gets right on top of the AD carry in a very important moment, and I feel like DFM had a level of clutch factor in some of those make or break situations which really sealed that game for them. So no, it's not a flawless game. They made some pretty bad decision making moments around, like I said, early game, mid game, up towards that Herald where C9 had the better read of them. But just as that happened, their team fights kind of stuck the landing quite well.
How would you shadow box Arya against the mids of this group? So it's obviously Abadagi from 100 Thieves, Scout from EDG, and then Faker from T1, of course.
So in terms of like individual skill, laning is definitely one of his strengths. We saw him not fall behind Showmaker at MSI. I think that was quite important, and that's a pretty good benchmark to have, right? The second game against Damwon obviously went a lot worse at MSI, where they just got absolutely wrecked by the Dian Yasuo, and I don't even remember much about that game because there wasn't much to VOD review from it. But I think that Ari is not going to be the kind of person to just collapse. I don't know, and this is going to be a big thing for DFM in this group, whether they can leave their solo lanes on an island and expect them to push in early, get some priority, and then teleport bot. And that's obviously one of the big plays which they kind of pulled out like 3 times in a row in play and stage. And that's going to be quite difficult for DFM if they've kind of had to switch away from playing through topside and actually being nullified through there by UL and the C9 the first time, then maybe not having the individual laning strength to pull off their second style, which they went to in groups, just because it's just the extra exponential level of talent growth in the group stage compared to the play-in stage. So I think what we're probably going to see is Arya do fine, but not well enough to impact the game to the level which DFM will need to like explosively win loads of games in group stage. I think there's a chance they snipe some wins, but I think they'd have to do it in exceptional circumstances, and that's why it's quite hard to kind of put DFM in the shadowboxing arena and hope that they'll land it on a consistent basis.
They also did change a lot of their focus later in groups to running through Utapon in the bot lane, and that was successful. I mean, part of having the resources invested in you is being able to carry these games, and I think Utapon did a very good job of that. And I think they've got some weird bans that are necessary. I don't think you can let Evie continue to have Urgot in the top lane.
There's no point, is there?
I think if you do that you really increase the chance that Detonation Focus Me causes an upset.
Oh, particularly if T1 do the cannon thing again, and it's just like just gets gapped in one fight.
Look, there's gonna be a trap game. I think it's very unlikely that, given the performance and consistency that we saw at a DFM, that they go 0-6 in this group. I think it's more likely they go 1-5, and the question is, whose tournament do they destroy? Effectively, they're gonna be a really fun dark horse to watch.
And I think there's a chance they pull off the classic wildcard, because DFM importantly have something which pretty much no LGL team has ever had now. No expectations and like no pressure on them. Like they've done what they came here to do. They made groups. LGL's really happy with them. I'm very happy with them. Now go kick some heads in. Go do it. Go pull out some weird drafts. Do some weird shit.
I do actually think though that people, because if you remember, right, most people, when they looked at the planes, automatically went, right, it's obviously going to be Cloud9 Beyond, get out of that one. Yep. So if you remember, everyone, even though in theory we didn't know who was going to be all the groups, we sort of did, right? So in this group, everyone thought it would be Beyond, right? And even though I'll say some people were hyping that team because they were just going like, doggo. It's like, listen, motherfucker, make it more obvious you've never watched that region. He's not Uzi though, mate. Like, they would talk like this guy's going to 1v9 games as an AD carry on a team you've never watched play. Like, I'd go ahead and maybe not be so strong with the opinions that people had on that. But here's the thing, right? If there had been Beyond in this group, well, it's not really that interesting. I don't think they would be able to do much against the top teams. I think Detonators and Focus Me have already shown at 2 international tournaments now. We haven't played all of one of them, obviously. They've already shown like the potential ceiling is way higher than some of these teams you'd expect. Like there are, but like you said earlier, but this is real. People can go look at this. It wasn't just that like they were winning by like 2k gold against Dan1.
Comeback that was successful from DFM, but you do have to pin a large amount of the blame on Cloud9 just not understanding how to operate their composition.
So I'm not like into like ice skating or gymnastics and stuff. You know how like judges judge on different criteria? You've got like the difficulty and execution, all this other stuff. Like, well, all right, okay, maybe on like the early game decision making, particularly around that Herald around top side where they just kind of got a bit outplayed by Fudge taking the tower and running off into their own side of the map. Maybe you dock him a couple of points for that, but their team fighting was superb. I don't think you can take that away from them. I think that the one player who maybe people have put a magnifying glass over and said maybe they're getting a bit carried is Steel. I've been quite happy with how Steel's been performing, particularly in those team fights. Particularly at that last Elder Dragon fight where, you know, the Dragon last auto ends up killing Sven. Like, Steel gets right on top of the AD carry in a very important moment. And I feel like DFM had a level of clutch factor in some of those make or break situations which really sealed that game for them. So no, it's not a flawless game. They made some pretty bad decision-making moments around, like I said, early game, mid game, up towards that Herald where, you know, I had the better read of them. But, you know, just as that happened, their team fights kind of stuck the landing quite well.
How would you shadow box Arya against the mids of this group? So it's obviously Abedage from 100 Thieves, Scout from EDG, and then Faker from T1, of course.
So in terms of like individual skill, laning is definitely one of his strengths. We saw him not fall behind Showmaker at MSI. I think that was quite important, and that's a pretty good benchmark to have, right? The second game against Damwon obviously went a lot worse at MSI, where they just got absolutely wrecked by the Dian Yasuo, and I don't even remember much about that game because there wasn't much to VOD review from it. But I think that Ari's not going to be the kind of person to just collapse. I don't know, and this is going to be a big thing for DFM in this group, whether they can leave their solo lanes on an island and expect them to push in early, get some priority, and then teleport bot. And that's obviously one of the big plays which they kind of pulled out like 3 times in a row in playing stage. And that's going to be quite difficult for DFM if they've kind of had to switch away from playing through top side and actually being nullified through there by UL and the C9 the first time, then maybe not having the individual laning strength to pull off their second style, which they went to in groups, just because it's just the extra exponential level of talent growth in the group stage compared to the play-in stage. So I think what we're probably going to see is Arya do fine, but not well enough to impact the game to the level which DFM will need to like explosively win loads of games in group stage. I think there's a chance they snipe some wins, but I think they'd have to do it in exceptional circumstances, and that's why it's quite hard to kind of put DFM in the shadowboxing arena and hope that they'll, you know, land it on a consistent basis.
They also did change a lot of their focus later in groups to running through Utapon in the bot lane, and that was successful. I mean, part of having the resources invested in you is being able to carry these games, and I think Utapon did a very good job of that. And I think they've got some weird bans that are necessary. I don't think you can let Evie continue to have Urgot in the top lane.
There's no point, is there?
I think if you do that you really increase the chance that Detonation Focus Me causes an upset.
Oh, particularly if T1 do the cannon thing again, and it's just like just gets gapped in one fight.
Look, there's gonna be a trap game. I think it's very unlikely that, given the performance and consistency that we saw at a DFM, that they go 0-6 in this group. I think it's more likely they go 1-5, and the question is, whose tournament do they destroy? Effectively, like, they're gonna be a really fun dark horse to watch.
And I think there's a chance they pull off the classic wildcard, because DFM importantly have something which pretty much no LGL team has ever had now. no expectations and like no pressure on them. Like they've done what they came here to do. They made groups. LGL's really happy with them. I'm very happy with them. Now go kick some heads in. Go do it. Go pull out some weird drafts. Do some weird shit.
I do actually think though that people, because if you remember, right, most people, when they looked at the play-ins, automatically went, right, it's obviously going to be Cloud9 Beyond, get out of that one. Yep. So if you remember, everyone, even though in theory we didn't know who was going to be all the groups, we sort of did, right? So in this group, everyone thought it would be Beyond, right? And even though I'll say some people were hyping that team because they were just going like, doggo, it's like, listen, motherfucker, make it more obvious you've never watched that region. He's not Uzi though, mate. Like, they were talking like this guy's going to 1v9 games as an AD carry on a team you've never watched play. Like, I'd go ahead and maybe not be so strong with the opinions that people had on that. But here's the thing, right? If there had been Beyond in this group, well, it's not really that interesting. I don't think they would be able to do much against the top teams. I think Detonators and Focus Me have already shown at 2 international tournaments now. We haven't played all of one of them, obviously. They've already shown, like, the potential ceiling is way higher than some of these teams you'd expect. Like, there are, but like you said earlier, but this is real. People can go look at this. It wasn't just that, like, they were winning by, like, 2k gold against Dan1. They had the fucking game almost won. And that was effectively supposed to be, because they were still the world champs at the time, that was supposed to be the best team in the world. They almost beat them in the best of one, guys, for real.
Kazu. Yes. No, I love Kazu, but it's with Kazu. Like, this is the player that every time 3 or more people... Like, this guy, like, without fail, every time there were 3 people on screen would go for an engage. Doesn't even matter what the hell's happening on the map. Like, so it made him, like, very fun player to watch, but it was very much like a... We just got to follow him regardless of what happens. That's how they played that game. They're a much more nuanced team with gang involved, especially when they reintegrated him. And I think the upper level of the team, as you said, is pretty scary, even for some very strong teams.
I actually hate the narratives, the fan narratives that came out of MSI, this last MSI, because I feel like it was so fucking weird, because people were focusing on Cloud9 saying like, oh, this is a huge underperformance from Cloud9, because, okay, they lost to the Oceanic team, should that not have happened? Sure. But like Thorin's saying, Detonation Focus Me almost beat the reigning world champions and like should have won. And so people are shitting on Cloud9 for losing to DFM, which to me doesn't seem too weird. People are shitting on Cloud9 even though they beat both of the best teams at the tournaments in some of these best of ones. Was their performance inconsistent? Yes, but you saw the highs as well. Like people are just remembering the lows. So I thought the whole MSI narrative of like power level of regions and what the team's strengths were was completely off base from the fan base coming out of that tournament, and to this day still. And that's why, you know, I agreed with you when you were talking about, well, DFM has their whole roster now. That was the whole narrative going to MSI, was they were going to have it afterwards. They had, you know, you talked about the dominant split on the last show, and there should have been pretty good expectations for this team.
But this is communicating about minor regions just to the wider public, right? Because as much as like the meme about the planes or a fiesta thing, like people are not well educated on minor regions, mainly because the results just aren't there, right? I mean, it's hard to sell a team from a region which has never done anything internationally, because like the one result they had was at a Rift Rivals, and Rift Rivals doesn't really count. So trying to communicate about this team is something that obviously myself and everyone else that did the fan broadcast of the LGL has tried very hard to do. And suddenly, yeah, people want to listen to us, but it's about having that backlog and kind of saying something set in stone and say, yes, this is what we expect this team to do. These are the reasons why. Follow our logic. And luckily for MSI and for Worlds, we pretty much got it mostly bang on. And like I said, maybe there were some problems in plans for me, like saying, okay, maybe they went through topside being super coordinated and playing through it. Well, yeah, the top side was coordinated, but they didn't play through it. They played it towards bot side as well. It took some adaptation. We talked about their versatility, and that's another thing there. But, like, if people follow the logic, the information's there. You just kind of got to go out and get it. And, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't always make it. Except that DFM are a pretty okay team.
I mean, my joke is you can lead a fan to an informed opinion, but you can't make him think.
True.
There you go. You like that one? Someone write that down. It's not a bad one. It should be in my book at some point.
There you go.
Because I would, by the way, just be like Frank Herbert and write my own fake quotes that are super epic as the openers to each paragraph, instead of just using someone else's quotes. Just make your own quotes and then say that they're good.
As a wise man once said, oh, that was me. Right,
exactly.
So as we take a look at this group, though, like obviously gonna be pretty rough. It has, you know, 2 #1 seeds in it from ostensibly major regions, even though technically PSG Talon was the Pool 1 team and not 100 Thieves. Some people are saying, Dylan just came off saying saying that EDG is going to be the winners of Worlds. I think that's Thorns is a less common opinion, which surprised me, considering I would think of them as
least among the
probably
people
the
I talk to,
frontrunners, as well. But what do you think
but instead it looks like they will try to match jungle. Hold that thought for a brief moment. And important to remember from both those games yesterday, it's Tsunami in the end, that the bot lane was volatile on both sides. Now for FBN, who he lost summoners in an early lane where they really wanted to be winning, for Yutapon and Gang, they got aggressive on the Jhin Yuumi lane, and ultimately it turned against them when they weren't able to connect maybe some of those kill shots, weren't able to really make that all-in work. So expecting more from both of these bottom lanes today, and certainly when you got a Lucian Nami on one side, you are set up for an explosive laning phase.
Yeah, I think a lot of it came down to attention to detail and level 1 ward placement for them, getting the early vision and the early safety. But do like to follow up here, ban away that Leona anytime you have Misfortune. Definitely such a scary offensive combination. The Evi targeted Urgot, a little bit of respect there as well. You love to see it. Trying to take away some of the signature ones. And it's going to leave open some more possible jungle bans at closer. I actually am quite glad they banned away the Jarvan from him. Maybe get him on a little bit more carry-oriented champion from the side of 100 Thieves.
For now, though, it looks like Graves is going to be the potential pick up here. They could opt for jungle and wait, though, on this last pick, but Graves obviously just a powerful pick overall. It certainly wouldn't hurt to lock it in. It is still technically a flex. We've seen Bwipo play it in the jungle. Most people have been playing it top, but flexibility never hurts.
Especially when you are red side on your 4 pick. Keeps them guessing a little bit as far as their top lane matchup, so then you have to do something like this. The Gnar, which it can be very neutral, not going to be super overpowering for it, but can handle even if you do decide to do a lane swap and put it into the jungle. So you like that there from Evi, trying to be versatile and provide the team a little bit of a buffer. The Rakan immediately gets locked in though there. This thing has been so deadly as far as the combinations you can set up for Misfortune. Lightning quick engages for the ultimate and set him up the exact same way. The Viego that we mentioned, Dracos, he comes back. All right, let's lay it out though. Yeah. Got nerfed. Let's be clear, since the highlight reels of Closer turbo carrying through playoffs for 100 Thieves, they significantly hit the healing on when you collect your soul. So your pop-off pentakill chain moments are a little bit more difficult, especially when you're in a 1v3, 1v4 situation where you've seen some of the more frustrating gameplay from this champion. Also some other small things. They increase the radius where you can actually detect him when he's in the mist. And the other things are a little bit more insignificant, but the chaining and the heal that you get back from it is something that can hurt if you're banking on just the reset possibilities for the champion. But they've just been so good at utilizing it, and him being such an offensive force from the jungle. This is kind of more what people want to see from 100 Thieves at Worlds here. So see if it stacks up versus Detonation Focus Me.
Certainly, and expected to be a big improvement from the Aatrox J4 topside that they had yesterday. Whatever had worked out for them previously obviously did not show up as well on stage, but you are against Elisa and Gnar. Now, Evi notorious for a small but very focused champion pool. Gnar, one of his big picks, played it twice during the plans alongside some Urgot, alongside some Set. He played the Set yesterday as well. We'll see how he handles this lane matchup. Now, range advantage obviously feels all right for Gnar. You have the Boomerang, but in general, I'm really convinced personally that Graves is just way too friggin' strong. So I'm ready to see what Someday can do with this champion. And have to find out exactly how he can play this lane phase out as we get into this one. Remember, both teams 0-1 right now, need to find that first win. Miracle Run is always possible, but if you're losing to the other team alongside you near the bottom, that miracle dream dies pretty fast.
Yeah, the positive thing here for out of champ select for 100 Thieves is they got their pushing lanes to work with for Viego for the offensive effort. Meanwhile, on the side of DFM, Arya on one of his comfort champions with the Zoe here can definitely have some big bubble picks, especially if you are the jungler. Have to watch out whenever you're rotating through and around mid lane, because the burst damage coming through, if just a bubble lands, him plus allowing Steel to get in location is definitely openings for Burst.
And Arya did feel like the strongest individual laner that we saw in the DFM versus T1 matchup yesterday. It was Orianna versus Zier. Now, it wasn't the greatest lane phase, and eventually the deficits from his allies did flow over into the mid lane, but for most of the early levels, he was going toe-to-toe with Faker. Now, those aren't the two most explosive champions, but it is a good sign as we look ahead towards this matchup against 100 Thieves. That said, Abbedagge just going to walk forward, lay down a little bit of early vision. You highlighted it in the last game. I think, in general, just so important to track early jungle pathing. We're not seeing the new junglers here, yes. Lee Sin, Viego, very much a matchup every region got used to in playoffs. And of course, you were banning the Lee Sin. But now at least DFM going to have some good information. And while 100 Thieves will not see exactly where Lee Sin started, by seeing where he hasn't started, they'll have a pretty good idea.
And, you know, a decent amount of people dropping Viego as a priority jungle champion. It's moments like this where you get those nerfs where you basically weed out the party blessed Viegos that are just jumping on whatever's popular at the moment, and the true Viego aficionados, you know, the connoisseurs.
Are you here because he's powerful, or are you really committed? Are you the edgy boy with the eyeliner who fully wants to commit to the bad high school boyfriend vibes that Viego brings to the table? We'll see what closer is going to be here in this one. For now, though, early pressure very much going in favor of the Lucian and Nami. Not too surprising there. Rakan level 1. Not super powerful overall, whereas Nami, you know, she's just got a lot of really strong abilities. The E I never used to worry about, but with Electrocute and the Imperial Mandate and the Lucian buffs, very strong. The W has historically always been ludicrously powerful, so we'll see how long they can keep this pressure up bottom side, as we do have a little bit more vision laid down on the top side again, on the side of 100 Thieves, trying to keep track of where the jungler's going to go.
Yeah, this is what you always like to see when you have your pushing top side matchup. Someday on Graves, easy access to the wave early on, push him in there with the Gnar, affords you, like you're talking about earlier, the jungle tracking. Easy process of elimination early on when you get your deep Gromp blue buff ward over there. They know exactly where he is. The defensive ward comes out though, as you can see in the river, up towards the early ramp by Raptors. They already placed it for detonation focus me, so no surprise invade on the Raptors or Red from Closer. Has to go down through the river, finish up to secure this bottom Scuttle Crab, and even set himself up for 2. He skipped his wolves to do this though, so there is a cost to early access to the river, as it's a very nice trade on level 3 here from the 100 Thieves bottom lane, giant chunk. But there is a cost, you know, Closer skipping the wolves, usually you'll have the 4 camp clear and be able to get your double scuttle, but with the early entry into the river, has full vision and can easily get them both.
And this is exactly what you highlighted when you saw this draft, Kobe, is that the early prio lanes are going to free Closer up so much, and now it's freed him up to take a double crab to kick things off. Definitely the start you'd love to have for Viego.
Yeah, bottom vision, they do have their tri-brush ward in place, so you can see FBI and Huhi do a good job of kind of playing dumb down there, like, staying in lane just long enough to make Lee Sin use a bit of time to hover around them while still keeping up their pressure, but backing off before you can complete an all-in. And now it is sort of a trailing invade here to find that wolf camp that was left up by Closer to sacrifice for his river protection, but because their support is going to help with the jungle invade and look for the mid dive, bottom is under attack. Abbedagge is going to have to flash up towards top.
Abbedagge needs to get away from the knockup, and now the kick could connect. If he manages to hit it on Abbedagge, it's going to be big. It goes wide, but the auto attacks are going to finish the job. That's first blood going over to the side of detonation focus me. Closer here to pick up the wave. Arya very low though, has to be careful. Picks up, lucky item pickup there. Gets the extra movement speed coming in from the stolen Youmuu's passive, and now just smacking right back onto Closer.
Beautiful surgic removal of the 100 Thieves mid laner there by DFM. Just even though they get dodge on Abbedagge's flash there, they force him to the side away from the tower so they can still complete the dive.
Very close. Huhi now flashing forward. One more auto. He's going in, but the shield comes in with the Rakan. Huhi still manages to get him just barely on the edge there, but 100 Thieves bot lane find the kill.
That's the price you pay. Unipon, longest standing member on the team. Over 820 games with this organization. And he's left alone under the tower versus Nami Lucian. Even by the time the gang gets back, it's not quick enough. And FBI and Huhi make them pay for taking down Faker Dage.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you look at the value proposition, that Lee Sin is ahead, but bot lane is bleeding very fast. And again, the execution here good, the patience on Lee Sin. QI said it's going wide, but ultimately, as long as you throw it that way, You're guaranteed to finish the job with just auto attack.
Yeah, so they get out the flasher, and then Steel, because he has ward hop, Lee Sin ward hop right next to you. Now you have no way of getting away from Q except for sidestep dodging, and with all the dodging away from the tower. See if they get a repeat, though.
This is a replay.
Haha, we get a repeat. 2 hours of sleep, my friend. Whoa, is that crazy, Daniel? They killed him again. Oh, man. Thanks, Axe.
Yeah, that was the Kobe effect replay right there. Probably the jet lag effect replay right there. But maybe we see it repeated. Maybe you're a prophet. That's just what you're bringing us back to. And again, things very good right now. 100 Thieves in the early game. They did have complete control of the bottom side. They're opting to fight back a little bit here. The flash forward from closer, they're going to immediately kick things off. The bubble does manage to connect. That should be one dead Misfortune. Utapon going down. That's the reset.
Prophet, you see, he gets the net this one as well. So it is a repeat closer.
Whoa, that's not a caster curse. That's just a Prophet, but Arya doing big damage onto Abadagi, trying to get a kill back in the meantime, but Rise obviously a ton of sustained damage. That's the Ignite, that's the Flash. Abadagi now trying to make it out, but Arya with a clean solo kill.
Arya on comfort is a menace, and that's why DFM focused him early on. Able to get this one out by himself, taking down Abadagi. No flash left from the previous time. Nice chase down and answer, because the bottom side, huge alarms going off for DFM. It's becoming a huge problem, especially with Closer going down there to play off their strong lane and picking some up for himself. Now they're just looking to repeat.
That's a level 6 Viego. Spectrumon not going to connect. Gangcore still has tanky as with the Resolve primary, but they have to be careful here on this dive. If he manages to get a little bit more damage, FBI now dashing in on the Lucian. It's just so easy. 100 Thieves found the weak point, and they're focusing, and that's the double kill over to them. 2-5 the kill score now. Someday, they're going to try to get something done here. That's a level 7 Graves. He's stacking armor like a madman off that True Grit. That is not a fight that DFM can take.
Yeah, Someday defending a bit of the jungle there, get some of the Krugs for himself. Meanwhile, the rest of the team and Closer on the pick. Sometimes you look at the fans' responses and you're like, oh yeah, you want to see him on the Viego because he stomped. Well, guess what, guys? Yeah, he got nerfed. Doesn't matter. They're right, okay, Dracos?
The fans are always right. They said, no more Jarvan.
Get him on Viego. Bam. Get him on carry. Guess what? Yeah. It's definitely set up by bottom lane and helps so much with the investment in Lucian, Nami laying down there for the 100 Thieves, but having Closer on the Viego, getting these kills as well so early on in the game, gives you just so much more confidence for this team.
Yeah, I mean, and again, incredible early game from 100 Thieves. Big turnaround from what we saw against EDG. Now, Detonate's focused me. Maybe they can find a way back into this one, but this big of a deficit, only 8 minutes into the game, 2.5k gold, massive leads for the Lucian, massive lead for the Viego, is going to make the entire game quite difficult. And you can see Steel maybe fishing for a little bit of pick here, fishing for a bit of vision, but not really going to get much out of it.
Just happy to see some MF on the receiving end of a lot of DPS this time around. Really well utilized here by Huhi, by FBI, because Gang went to go roam. You cannot do that against this offensive bottom lane, not get punished.
Really good wave from Huhi. Very slow skill, but he lines it up perfectly. He finds him against the wall. Utapon now set to fall, burning, ticking from the Ignite. FBI gonna grab that one.
Over and over again. Love it. Going to the super strong lane, just forcing. And in the long lane here, Utapon doesn't even use the heal. Knows he is dead to rights. That one's going to result in more objectives for here. 400 Thieves. Dragon picked up. They can begin their stacking. Almost all of the turret plates have already been worked off by hand down here. No need for a Rift Herald, which will be traded over to DFM. They know they've lost control of bottom side, so your best option in these cases is try and trade something on top side. Pick up that Rift Herald. It's your consolation prize, plus Scuttle Crab spawned up there, so you get a little bit of extra.
Yeah. It's going to result in maybe 300, maybe 600 gold, of course, but in the meantime, FBI is just breaking bot lane tower at 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes
He's
into the
breaking
game.
their mental down there, too.
Yeah. If your mental is not broken after this one, that's incredible. Shout outs to DFM if they can hold on. But that is one very powerful Lucian, and he's only going to get stronger. He's sitting on 1.8k gold, and was sitting on about 1,000, I think, in the last fight anyway. So he's going to return, maybe finish that first Mythic. On top of that, Huhi grabbing a couple kills as well. It means he's very close to the Imperial Mandate. This is a murder lane.
Draco, so because I'm so jet lagged, I need another check. Is that one a replay? Because we just had another defensive Krugs by Someday. He's getting his money's worth.
This is really happening.
That was facetious. And yet, he's playing his weak side well. This is one of the things where Someday didn't get a lot of credit this season because so many of the other 100 Thieves players had carry roles throughout the entire split, but playing weak side quite well because of all the bottom focus and their bottom carrying so hard. You know, keeps backing off, defends a bit of Krugs, doesn't get dove, doesn't give up any deaths, staying here within the reach.
Yeah, and I think it's just so difficult for DFM to try to push on anything in the top side, and someday winning this lane on zone, taking Krugs away, defending the top. Their options are running out very quickly, Kobe. We're 10 minutes in, and I'm already just trying to figure out what DFM do to survive in this game. 100 Thieves are taking everything. They don't believe in like the slow, steady push forward. They're like, we're stronger than you. We're taking all of your jungle, all of the vision, all of your towers.
You for sure cannot fight on the Lucian Nami. Mandate and Kraken Slayer are both finished. These are two carries. Like their DPS output from this duo is insane. So you have to try and trade somewhere on the other side of the map. But they're sending more resources here to try and collect on, I guess, the Nami bounty, because there's not even a big bounty on FBI since you know, all the kill credit, a lot of them were going to Closer. And it just seems like, to me, an unnecessary uphill battle trying to fight into the biggest strength of 100 Thieves when you have the option of trying to trade across on the other side of the map.
And I think the downside here especially is that Arya is currently pretty much the strongest point for this team alongside Steel, and you're committing them both to the top side, which means in the meantime, Abadage, who was struggling a little bit in lane, is now ahead in CS. Got a ton of time alone in that mid lane to just farm up. MF forced to move in and catch that wave, and MF can't even sit comfortably in that lane. She now has to leave, has to try to go somewhere else. Maybe she can catch this wave, but if 100 Thieves want to commit for the dive, immediately you can see DFM already roaming over, knowing that this is something that 100 Thieves could do if Yutapon is left alone.
Their hope for shutting down FBI is either a flash play from Gang on Rakan, because he's now level 6.
That's going to be the root into the knock-up, into the bubble. That's a ton of CC. Lucian doesn't even need to participate. Nami, the real carry in that one.
Exactly. The bounty's in the right place, my friend. Who he heads over, adds to the CC. Abadaga easily collects that one, though, just waiting in the brush, and that was a ill-fated invade. Now might be a dive on the other side.
But now that they know Arya's not in the area either, Closer now moving up. Is he going to be able to connect on the stun? He's going to do a ton of damage. Is asleep for now. Arya trying to fire back, but at least zoning the Zoe away. Now, there's not enough of a wave to force an immediate dive here, so you're going to sit comfortable for now. But, of course, just surviving right now costs DFM a couple tower plates on the top side as Abadaga grabs more gold.
Yeah, they're at least clearing out some of the vision between the turrets to try and open up avenues for rotations. But if you see, Closer just strong-armed Arya there in order to defend it. Puts down another control ward. You see the control ward right there by blue buff. So both sides of anyone rotating over to defend these waves get sussed out, and 100 Thieves continue to prey on them. So you basically continue to increase your lead by taking away as much as you can from DFM in setting up for another dragon here. 1 minute away should be easy river control for 100 Thieves. They've already got the bottom side tower down, and after rotating someday over there, they can easily now go step number 2, put your deeper wards into the red buff quadrant of DFM's jungle, thereby seeing them, if anybody tries to come up and poke around this dragon, which they definitely shouldn't for DFM, then you can punish them accordingly. Nami ultimate will be back up, so you have the long range tidal wave to be able to throw it through the jungle. You know, through that jungle corridor is your best option of trying to find those picks, because much more difficult to dodge.
And I think overall, 100 Thieves' surgical precision here as they push their vision line forward. They deny more and more from the side of DFM. DFM doing what they can to respond on the opposite side of the map, but there's just not a lot there for them. Yes, they're going to get some vision, but there are no camps there, and it's difficult for the LJL representative. First time in groups, come out to a difficult loss versus T1, and potentially another difficult loss here against 100 Thieves. I think there had to be some optimism coming into this game after they pretty triumphantly won over C9 to make it here in the first place, but at this stage of the game, you're grasping at straws and you're holding on. This is the classic pray for late game moment where you just hope that maybe 100 Thieves overextend or overcommit or get too aggressive, because at this stage of the game, you are weaker in fights. They will hit you with their wallets.
100 Thieves doing Cloud9 a solid here.
Yeah, redemption.
We got you a little bit of revenge there. The dragon is up. They actually not in any rush to pick it up, it looks like. Full reset, going to catch topside wave. DFM made the attempt as far as, if they send any straggler for a weak side trying to defend topside turret, then we'll punish, but nobody to be found, so no extra gold over there. 100 Thieves, the only thing they have to keep in mind now is when you're trading sides of the map like this, after strong siding so often on bottom half of the map, you have to keep in mind that, yeah, there should be a lot of vision left behind in our red quadrant. So you'll see a little bit of hesitation before moving into that quadrant. There could be the surprise brush play. Those are things you look at now as the game progresses with this sort of a lead. You know, multiple people setting up in your brush to try and surprise you there, and so then you just wait, move with multiple since you don't have great face checking tools. Wait for closer to come over, and then you can safely get in there. You see the pings are already going down from them. Once they get the resets, move over and sweep it out.
And between Steel and Arya, you have a ton of tools that you can use to find these picks, to find these isolated targets, and really to make it work in that context.
I don't know if this is, if anyone else could hear this, but your voice just got way deeper from me.
You know what? I hear it too.
There was some audio change. I was like, whoa.
I wasn't going to talk about it.
Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming right now?
I'm underwater.
This is, I like it. This is
sometimes
this is the Dracos audio pack. I know you've got some vocal skills with all the rapping done, but are you a triple threat talent where he's going to start doing some...
You want me to like ASMR the Rift Herald? What do you want?
I was going to go, you know, with voice acting. Next thing we see you in is, you know, some animated short. But yeah, the ASMR is big right now, man.
ASMR is good. I feel like there's probably more money in one than the other. Just...
I would subscribe, okay?
I appreciate
Tier 3
that.
Subscription coming from me as soon as you open up your channel.
That's all I need to hear, Coach.
I'm in full support.
I think we're back. I think we're good.
Okay,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we're used to it now.
It's actually you doing it, and you're trolling me, and you're doing it on purpose.
No, I have no idea. And the best part is we don't even know if the fans can hear anything that we're talking about, but they can see this Rift Herald charging, and they can see 100 Thieves grouping on the top side to break down this Tier 2 tower. Relentless pressure forward, 6K gold lead. DFM, we'll see what they can do. They've got some burst damage to work with. Not enough to win a team fight, but maybe enough to find a pick.
Yeah, I mean, again, as we already referenced, it's like, all right, let's use our, you have to coordinate your sweeper cooldowns and your control wards to move up line by line to find these brush to try and set up your surprise play. You've got Gang here with level 6, with Flash ready, and their sights are set on Someday. Look at Rise, though, heading down the lane. Abadaga can use his Realm Warp to get there in time. They better be quick about it.
TPs, they're going in. Someday dashing through. They've got a bit of damage down. Lee Sin goes wide on the kick, though. They knock him back to the bush. Evie's trying to finish the job. Someday running for the hills. Abadaga, can they save him? He's still alive. Graves is still alive. It's disaster. Oh, no, and here comes the Realm Warp. Here they go. Gang running for the hills. Evie running for his life. He's going to go Mega. Maybe he can throw him back to the wall, but closer. Just relentless. If he gets this Gnar, it's going to be big, but Evie throws him back now. Arya laying down damage from downtown. FBI moving forward, but FBI and Huhi cannot contribute to the fight, so for now, a few members of DFM get to walk away. Oh, big knock-up. Nope.
Big, huge, gigantic, massive.
The gnarly wave, bro.
Hey, man, it puts the mandate thing on their heads.
That's true.
That was
marked for death,
large.
You would say. I was
Big McLarge huge. That's what that reminds me of. But anyways, back to the play that just happened. Yeah, you have to be quick about if you're pulling off one of those attempts at the big comeback play on the split pusher, because this is the thing that most people always complain about with Graves is how deceptively tanky he is. You know, with the True Grit, yes, but also the shield bow builds, being able to have that shield to rely upon, you know, is able to buy plenty of time, and the rest of the 100 Thieves collapse, and you get punished in the aftermath. So every attempt you take, if you don't quickly complete your objective, then you get a little pain on the way out. Here it is. I like the setup. You know, kick him right in. You know, Ignite used early on, so he doesn't get as much out of the lifesteal, but too much evasive maneuvers there. Ultimate away to Abadaga. Didn't even have to use a Realm Warp to get there in time, so he used it for the chase.
Yeah, and in the new Axe Effect replay, you can see once the play goes even a little bit south, 100 Thieves are so far ahead that they just keep going, basically, until the tower stops them. Until they have to literally dive a tier 2 to kill people, they will just run over you in a fight. So DFM, maybe they get one or two more opportunities, but every time they go for something like that, it does cost them a little bit more gold. This deficit continues to stack against them. We get later and later in the game. Baron around the corner, and this team pretty good at killing Baron very quickly. Yes, they don't have a tank, but they do have 4.5 DPS threats with this Nami.
I love this strategy. You know, some of the new MMOs don't even have tank classes, and they go with the same strategy where it's mostly DPS and a healer. That's what 100 Thieves have drafted. 4 DPS and a healer.
Wow. I always played tank because I had bad hands, but now it feels like there's no place left for me.
Well, you've got to be healer, I guess.
Knock up, now going in. Someday, though, not a man is going to go down quite so easily. All the 100 Thieves running down towards the bottom side of the map. Again, DFM going for the collapse, but 100 Thieves can just move down to bottom side and look at that tier 2 instead.
Yeah, they've got their pick of anything on the map, basically. Bottom side tier 2, turret into Dragon into Baron is my gamble. Good defensive ward line there from DFM with the control wards, but the wards can see them coming. You still can't do a lot about it. Yeah, so we need to look at what this kind of means moving forward for this group, because 100 Thieves, they did drop their opening game to EDG, but EDG is looking absolutely phenomenal right now and poised to top the group as most people expected. But I think some of the things to look at are the adjustments that 100 Thieves made in this game. You know, a lot of people talking about some of the things in Champ Select, but also the early decision making, where it was a bit lazy from 100 Thieves. Not what we usually expect from the preparation, from the level that they usually come out with, but this time around, playing so well around their win conditions, aggressive on bottom side, then also reacting to the commitment of resources from DFM towards mid. Yes, they punish Abadaga and he goes down, but it's about your response. And Closer going down bottom side after FBI and Huhi already opened up their kill onto Yutapon, punishing the roam of the support. Those are the types of things that you look for, regardless of how big now the game is kind of turning into a blowout.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's good that if you're going to lose to the first place team in the group, because there's still room for you if you can beat SKT. And yes, that would still be an upset, but if you can beat SKT, even if it's just 1-1 and EDG's in a 6-0 kind of situation, as long as you don't drop, you know, the next game against DFM, you're in position for a tiebreaker. And that is a massive opportunity. Now, admittedly, NA doesn't have the best history with tiebreakers, Kobe, but there is a path out of this group, and I think that is a big deal.
That's a good ad for, you know, the most interesting man in the world. I don't lose a lot, but when I do, I like to lose to the best team in the group.
There you go.
Perfect strategy.
I thought maybe you were going to say tiebreakers. I was like, that's
No, I wasn't going to go
good.
there, because that's, you know,
that's
one of those
dark,
too real type of jokes.
It's the dark place. We don't go there. One step at a time. First, you got to make it to the tiebreakers, or even just make it out without tiebreakers. That'd be sick. But for now, they need to close this game. Again, 22 minutes in, massive gold lead. We are 3 minutes away from a soul. Baron is up and available. All it will take is maybe 1 or 2 picks for DFM to lose that one entirely.
And I like that you bring up picks, especially coming out of the previous game, because previous game, you know, Cloud9, split pushing with Rise, a lot of effort needs to be put in to securing these avenues for Abadaga to pick. You just see him, or push, you just see him pushing very far on top side, but they have the ward coverage through the jungle to allow him to do that, and he backs off before getting collapsed upon, before getting picked. Now starting up Baron, forcing them to come through their own vision.
Gnar bottom. He's about to turn into Mega. This could be big. This is maybe the only opportunity they have to fight. If he turns Mini again, they're not going to have anything. 100 Thieves do not want to fully commit for this one. Mega Gnar coming in. Maybe this could be the big fight, but again, the timing a little bit off in the bubble. This is an opportunity for Evie, but it might be the only opportunity they get. 100 Thieves not going to take the bait, not going to over-commit to the Baron. They start that one, get a TP for free.
Now, do they actually want to collapse? Because they use the Huhi, Flash, FBI, heal. Not very large cooldowns from them, save for the flash from Huhi, but all they really got was the teleport out of Evie.
True. Closer, now going to make it out. Good news is, you're right, I missed the cooldowns there, and that is an important move for DFM. Maybe they can capitalize on it. Huhi has been very fortunate to make it out scot-free in all these situations. 2-0-5, obviously the ideal scoreline when you're playing Nami, but he is very squishy.
Yeah, if you're this far behind and you're picking a kill target, you're looking for definitely the squishiest easy kill target.
Try someday. No more someday.
The Nami with no flash sounds good. Yeah, you're looking at the herd and you're like, we must pick off the straggler from the herd.
I got to bring out the world's class analysis, Kobe. Hit the immobile champion who's very squishy.
The level 9 support down there with no flash. Got it. Achievable goals. I mean, honestly, they always tell you that. They have those surveys of the top CEOs of the world. Like, you know what? You got to break it down into achievable goals.
Yeah. Okay. So the big picture goal is win the game, but the little goal, the goal right in front of you, the baby step,
kill that flashless Nami.
Kill that flashless Nami with a bounty on her head.
She does still have a bounty.
I mean, everyone has a bounty at this point. It's very 100 Thieves' favorite game, but all it takes is a bunch of shutdowns, a one team fight, a Baron, and a couple Drakes, and DFM can be right back in this.
Because of the lack of tank you were talking about earlier, maybe they're a little bit more hesitant to stay on this Baron and sustain some of that damage. I would think, though, with Nami and with all the lifesteal on Viego, they should be able to continue to bait, continue to return to it. And remember the cooldown that they got out of the last one. Guess what? It was teleport from Evi. That is still down. They should be able to try and abuse and use Someday's teleport advantage by split pushing on bottom and then teleporting over to the Baron. You would think to end this a bit quicker. And this is one of the things where you take a microscope to your games. Great changes by 100 Thieves in the opener. However, everybody's going to be critiquing from this point on out how cleanly you execute on that split map. And the only reason